free event held in Duisburg, Germany. Love Parade was a massive electronic music and arts event that usually took place in open areas and attracted some 1 million visitors. But in 2010, for the first time, it was moved to a location in the city that was confined by tunnels and fences set up for the event. It was a very large space, but it wasn't made to handle 1 million people at the same time. The real problem here was a single tunnel served as the only entrance and exit to the festival, a choice that should go down as one of the stupidest decisions in history.
Okay, I'm gonna just stop it there. That's pretty obvious. One way in, one way out. You know, if there's a fire, a terrorist attack, or something like that, there's no way for people to get out. That's pretty. It's kind of a. You kind of think, oh, it's a. You look at it from a top-down view, and you think, oh, that's enough space for people to get in and out. But when you're talking about the amount of people that are at this event, that's not enough. You need more than one emergency exit, entrance and exit. Other than people just jumping fences. And yeah, I can already see where this is going.
As you might expect when 1 million people all try to travel through the same small space, the crowd became bottlenecked for hours, leading to people getting crushed and passing out. Police attempts to get control of the situation seemed to make things worse, and at one point they prevented anyone from entering or leaving the area. This was apparently to try to space out the different crowds. It didn't work. The situation became so dire that hordes of people rushed the only staircase that could be found to try to climb out of the crowd, leading to more trampling and crushing as most people were panicking at this point.
Yep.
But even many of the people...
So that's a very important point. When things go wrong, people panic, and it makes the situation much worse. And that's what a lot of people don't realize when we're talking about risk safety and sort of risk assessment and what to do and having policies in place for when things go wrong. And a lot of these forget about the stress on the people who are working at these events, and it also forgets about how people will react in these sort of situations. And people are very selfish when it comes to their own survival. So they're not caring about other people. They're just going to, and they will do things that are outside of the context. And from an armchair's perspective, you might go, well, that's very selfish. Well, that's very, that's not very morally right to push someone out of the way just so you can live or you can get through and get out. People do that. And yeah, that fact is very much lost and forgotten.
Weren't aware of just how bad it really was. Once the crowd did eventually clear out, 21 people were found dead from asphyxiation, with reports stating another 652 people injured in total. That is a lot. The incident led to Love Parade being permanently canceled, and 10 people being taken to court over the planning of the event, with the mayor of the city eventually being recalled out of office for his part in allowing the event to take place, despite knowing of the potential dangers. If we've learned anything from this video, everyone...
Yeah, so when you do mass events like this, there is always a council that event organizers work with, and that will have people from local government. It'll have safety advisors. It will have police. It will have the fireys. And fireys means firefighters for those who don't understand Australian lingo. You have the fireys, the police, depending on obviously the size. This all depends on what event it is and the size, but usually police, fire, if they needed. Maybe someone from the ambulance service, potentially. Usually it's just the police are the main ones. Police and local council, and obviously the event organizers and any other suppliers such as like AV suppliers or anyone supplying the structures, for instance, might sit on it. It depends on the event and what the council, who the council wants to sit on it as well. Councils have a big say in terms of who has input and who doesn't. And who they, more accurate case is that they have a big say on who they want to have input on and who they want to have their opinions shared by. But yeah, I mean, this is obviously with this sort of thing happening, local councils are just as much in the wrong here because they allowed the event to go ahead. So it's not just one people, it's not just one person making the decisions. It is a lot of people making decisions about egress and ingress and how people come and go from festivals and whatnot.
I'm just saying, keep that in mind when planning your musical adventures. Number 3, Bull Island Festival 1972. Bull Island is yet another case of a music festival getting ruined by hippies. In 1972, a festival
I got a
called
feeling
the
that
Erie
Wyatt doesn't
Canal
like
Soda
hippies
Pop Fest was
at all.
announced, featuring some of the biggest acts of the time, including Black Sabbath, Joe Cocker, Rod Stewart, and many more. The festival was billed as being bigger than Woodstock, but there was just one problem. No city official wanted it to happen. You see, the festival was announced before
That
the
doesn't help.
organizers actually had any permits. Lawsuits were filed in order to prevent the festival from taking place, but the two promoters organizing the event remained undeterred. The promoters eventually found a location called Bull Island, which sat in between Indiana and Illinois, and was sort of considered an unregulated territory. The promoters didn't announce the new location until shortly before the festival was to take place, so authorities wouldn't have time to try to shut it down with another court case. But this last minute change also meant that there wasn't time to properly set everything up. The festival had expected some 55,000 attendees, but once it started, the crowd numbered some 200,000 dirty hippies invading this small plot of land. There were only 2 roads to get to the island, leading
Okay, already you're screwed. You know, yeah, like that many people, you just can't. If you're planning for 55,000 and, you know, you get that many people, the infrastructure won't hold it. And it's not just infrastructure as well. So everything has a knock-on effect with large events like this. So you're going to have traffic jams because you're only expecting a certain amount of cars, right? So you're going to have traffic jams. The toilets aren't going to be clean because there's just too many people using the toilets, so they're going to overflow. There's going to be not enough water, not enough food, also not enough physical space sometimes, which obviously leads to what we've already talked about before, which is crushing. You have too many people in one space, not enough barricades, people get crushed and dying, get hurt. And then you also have knock-on effects from that as well. So when you have people who don't get their basic amenities and they not have anywhere to sleep or anything like that, not enough water, not enough food, obviously the medical conditions start happening, but people start to get really angry. And when people get angry, people get violent. And then fights start and it snowballs from there.
Leading to traffic jams of up to 30 miles long.
Just said
with
that.
Many drugged
Traffic
out
jams.
hippies just abandoning their cars and walking for
Holy
miles to the
moly.
festival. The festival itself was severely lacking in food, water, and bathrooms.
Yep.
Security for the entire event was only 3 local sheriffs who were vastly outnumbered by the crowd.
You might as well say it didn't have security. Like, what is 3 sheriffs supposed to do against 250,000 people? Like, no one was getting their ticket stopped. No one was getting their, ticket checked. No, that's not going to happen.
Needless to say, things started fucking up immediately. The dirty, unemployed hippies set up an open-air drug market in the festival grounds, with everything from bad weed to acid laced with fertilizer to cocaine mixed with toilet cleaner out in the open for purchase. One attendee stated it was easier to buy drugs than it was to buy water. Making things worse,
Wow.
it rained the day before the festival, leading to an unsafe grounds and a shit atmosphere. With the high amount of drug use, lack of security, and barely any food, the food vendors who were at the festival started raising their prices, which led to many of them getting robbed and looted by the angry, starving, broke hippies. And some of these stupid, drugged-out dipshits even slaughtered a cow belonging to a local farmer to try to eat it. But they then discovered cows don't have pre-cooked hamburgers inside of them, and they didn't know how to turn it into food. Just say no, kids.
Okay, I think you can see by the facial expression on my facial expression how much I disagree with all of that. What can you do in that situation? I mean, even this goes beyond just a simple event management, and now it just goes on the long point that they're just like, what are you supposed to do with that many people, with that amount of people who are coming who you haven't accounted for? It's like having a dinner party for 2 and 10 people rock up. So, but on a mass scale. And as I said before, not enough food, not enough water, not enough sanitary conditions, nowhere to take. The fact that they slaughtered a cow, like, really? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of going back into like a post-apocalyptic setting, isn't it? Especially when there was rain. Like, if it had rained on the first day and everything's muddy and disgusting. Yeah, disgusting. With drugs, again, drugs get used in festivals all the time. We see stories about it. This leads to a bigger conversation about pill testing and other conversations, which I won't have in this video because this video is already going to be really long. So, but yeah, drugs obviously not allowed into festivals. Most festivals won't allow drugs, even weed in most places, except for the United States where it's legal. But for the most part, in most festivals, have banned drugs with a varying degree of enforcement, though. That's the key thing. And some police will bring sniffer dogs, and and that's another, again, a completely different conversation for another day. But we don't really have festivals nowadays. If you're watching this video, festivals nowadays do not have open air drug markets where you can buy drugs willy-nilly. In saying that, though, a lot of drug dealers do get into festivals, and certain festivals have more drug dealers than others. I will say, for instance, on Ultra Music 2019, there were a lot of drug dealers at that festival. I was getting approached constantly. I mean, is it something about my appearance that makes me look like I want to take a shitload of drugs? I don't know. But all I can say, there was a lot of drug dealers at that festival. And for this particular story, there was plenty of drug dealers, and they were very happy to sell it in the open. So, this is just a catastrophic one. There's not much I can comment on because it's all just gone wrong.
While some of the scheduled artists did perform over the weekend, many of the top
that
bands,
stage looks
including
unsafe.
Black Sabbath and Rod Stewart, were struggling to even get to the festival due to the traffic, and were dismayed by the extremely large, chaotic crowd, leading many of them to cancel their sets. Some artists who did perform, like Cheech and Chong, were helicoptered to the stage over the swamp of hippies to perform, and even then felt unsafe and cut their show short.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that stage. That stage just looks unsafe. Like, I know this is a long time ago, but still, that stage looks very rickety-rockety. Like, it's not, that's definitely not to standard to these days' standards, that's for sure.
Some artists also canceled his performance. The peace-loving hippies burned down the main stage. In the end, the festival was an abysmal failure.
There
with
you
the
go.
Reports of 4 deaths, mostly drug-related, lots of injuries, robberies, cars broken into and stolen entirely. The hippies made such a mess that the landowner apparently bulldozed all the trash and waste into the ground, letting nature doing the cleaning up. Man, hippies really do ruin everything, don't they?